Association and this station.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and test us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. I am Harrison Arens. Going to be going solo here to fill some of these gaps here. I'll be going solo all the way up until 8 o'clock, talking NBA here. Again, thanks for joining here on this Wednesday. If you guys want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line. That's 402-464-5685. That's also the Starter Heyman text line. Same number, 402-464-5685. We're also streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And for all our Allo subscribers, channel 951 on Allo. Great way to put a face to the voice. But like I said, we got the finals starting tomorrow. The finals that I'm sure everyone had in the back of their head, especially on the Eastern Conference. You got the 8th seed Miami Heat and the number 1 Denver Nuggets over in the West. And, you know, you keep going through this series and this year's playoffs, and you can't say it enough how special this run is for the Heat. I did not have the Heat making it this far. I didn't even have them, obviously, I thought they're probably going to win the play-in, but I had no chance they were going to beat the Bucks. Prove me wrong there. They beat the Bucks. And then you get to the next series. You kind of imagine they should be able to take care of the Knicks. And then you get to the Boston Celtics. You're down 0-3, and it kind of looks like, okay, it's coming to an end here. This miraculous miracle of a riot the Miami Heat have had. All that Heat culture stuff. It's like here it's going to kind of get proven wrong again. We're going to come back to reality. It's the NBA. You play 7 games. You do a pretty good job weeding out who and who shouldn't be there. And here we are with the 8th seeded Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. And I'm not going to apologize for not having them up there because I cannot say it enough how historic this moment is. Me at my age, I'm only 24. And I don't think I'll ever see this again. The Miami Heat, they came into out of the regular season into the playoffs with a negative point differential of negative 2.9. You're not going to win a lot of games like that. Not necessarily got a negative point differential. You are at the very bottom of offense. Let's see here. Yeah, 30th on offense coming into the playoffs. 28th three-point percentage coming into the playoffs. Nothing pointed to the signs that the Heat were a team you should take serious. The first game for the play-in tournament, Miami Heat, they get double-digit blowout. They lose to the Atlanta Hawks. Then the next game, they have the Bulls. If they want to, make their way back in, they're going to have to beat the Bulls. They're down to the Bulls with about 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And Jimmy Butler goes unconscious, and from there, that's when the whole thing really started for the Miami Heat. But again, the last time an A seed even made it to the finals, you have to go all the way back to the 1999 Knicks with a 27-23 record. So it's not even like the Miami Heat deal where they were really fighting and clawing. They had a 27-23 record. The first seed had a 33-17 record. Keep in mind, it was a shortened season as well. So if that whole season continues to play out, and you actually look at that Knicks roster in 99, they were up there, I believe top 3 in terms of where they were out on salary, on how much they were paying. It was a good roster. And if that season would have played out for the full length, if it wasn't a shortened season, I'm sure you'd see them climb up there, top 5 based on that roster. And that was the last team to do it. So yeah, they were the AC, but they're AC on shortened season. They had some injuries along the way, and they still make a run. And it, like I said, it's not like they're coming into that playoff with a negative point differential as well. There's a lot of good things going on that Knicks team. Let's see here. Eric and Lincoln chimes in. He says, does Jimmy Butler need this championship ring for his legacy? That's a good point, because you look at Jimmy and his playoff numbers are above and beyond his regular season numbers. Throughout his entire regular season, he's kind of been that 20 points per game, made about 8 rebounds, 4 assists. That's pretty much, his bread and butter. That's where he's usually at throughout the regular season. The playoffs come, he pretty much doubles just about everything. Maybe not double, maybe, ups it by a good 40% or so. But nonetheless, he is a completely different player in the NBA. But before this playoff started, you would not put Jimmy Butler in the top 10. I don't think anyone would. And now here we are, after this playoffs are all said and done, we're going to have to look at Jimmy Butler again and try to figure out where he sits in NBA history. He's still got some time left, but he's really has a unique run here. You can almost compare it to the Dirk era when it just kind of feels like it's Dirk versus everyone else. And when you watch Jimmy Butler, that's kind of where you feel like this run's going. If they can find a way to beat the Denver Nuggets, I mean, that'd be one of the most historical things I think any of us will have the opportunity to witness. Now, keep in mind, they are not the favorites in this series. I think everyone's kind of expecting the Heat to run out. Their little miracle run might come to an end here. I don't know how long you can lean on guys like Caleb Martin, undrafted Caleb Martin at that, who's just been playing out of his mind. It felt like every single shot, especially in that game 7. I know it was a blowout for the Celtics, but throughout that, anytime the Celtics were getting a little bit of momentum, it was Caleb Martin with just the daggers, the momentum shutters. So again, if he keeps that up, they could have a shot here. It's just how much are you willing to lean in on, an undrafted guy, a guy in Jimmy Butler who has definitely, cooled off a little bit. You got to give credit to guys on the team like Strus, Vincent, Caleb Martin, Bam Adebayo. You expect this from him to contribute at least a solid rate. But again, Jimmy Butler, who knows when this is all said and done, where Jimmy Butler falls. You could argue Jokic needs the ring just as badly, though. Maybe not just for him, for the entire Nuggets franchise. It's not like the Nuggets have been just this horrible franchise throughout all the years. They've definitely had some good teams. You can remember Carmelo Anthony. There's a few runs in there where they kept running into the Lakers. Unfortunately, they're going against Kobe Bryant in his prime. Just never really shook out for him. But they don't have a single ring in their history. And if you're Jokic, he's 8 seasons in. And for the trajectory he's on, you could argue that ring is just important for Jokic to decide where he sits in all of this. And Jimmy Butler, if he gets that ring, maybe we talk about him different. Maybe we start going it every season. We do look at him as a top 10 player. Despite the regular season numbers, we just expect something different in the playoffs. He also says that Spoelstra always seems to be underrated every year for his coaching. He's a top 5 coach, but always seems to get forgotten in the discussion. And yeah, I think you're right. I think we look at those coaches, and they don't get talked about a lot because they have the continuity. We're familiar with them. It's kind of like Popovich over with San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs haven't been very good, but I don't think everyone's blaming Popovich for that. The same thing for the Heat. When the Heat, you look at this year, when they're clawing, just absolutely fighting and clawing to get into the playoffs, and there's 8 games down the stretch, and they really need to try to win out to avoid the play-in or at least get a good seed in the play-in. So instead of having to win 2 games, maybe just got to win 1, and they go 4 for 8. Or 4 for 4. They win 4 games and they drop 4. So this clutch run that the Miami Heat have on, you want to give Spoelstra credit for what he did, what he's doing in the playoffs, I should say, is something that definitely puts him up there. I think we are at a point, though, that everyone can agree unanimously that Spoelstra right now is the best coach in the NBA. Where he's at in his career and what he's been able to do with this Miami Heat team, I will say I feel like so much of the credit belongs to the players. But when you start getting into the playoffs and, say you think it's 90% players need to contribute, they're the ones that really are going to have to make the plays, and you give coaches 10% of the real reason why they win. When you get to the playoffs, that 10%, when you're really splitting hairs there, it matters. And maybe that's why we see teams like the Miami Heat, Spoelstra, where that 10%, when you're, the game's on the line, they always seem to be in the right situation. They always seem to lean on guys that you don't expect and they have these huge games and they're not forcing shots. It all looks like it's part of the flow of the offense. And that's that small percentage that if you want to give to the coaches, Spoelstra's got to be the best guy out there. I right now, I don't know who you could argue. Steve Kerr is going to be the other guy that comes into the conversation. The only thing that goes against him, and you maybe can't even say it goes against him, it's just the talent he's had. You know, it's hard to look at the Miami Heat and look at Steve Kerr and say they've had the same, you know, fair share of talent. Steve Kerr, he walked into a loaded room, and good on him for recognizing it. Good on the Warriors overall staff for recognizing what they had, and just being really careful about the pieces they moved and the pieces they held on to. Jordan Poole might be the one that kind of finally breaks that destiny, that run that these guys have been having for so long here. We saw him go out, you know, this year. I didn't really expect it to the Lakers. Again, this playoffs has been just all over the place. The Lakers didn't really expect them to make that run. You know, I underestimated the addition of adding Rui Hachimura. He just played amazing. Seeing Austin Reeves in the playoff situation, I liked him in the regular season, don't get me wrong. But you those younger guys in particular, to kind of just have the stones in the playoff to make those shots and to be assertive when need be. You see it a lot of times, even Jimmy Butler for, you know, those Celtics series that they lost, even down the stretch when, you know, really you're watching Martin Vincent Strus carry that team all the way up until the third quarter. Then Jimmy Butler does his thing. But nonetheless, all of that kind of comes in the combination of these role players being able to step into these playoff situations where no one's expecting them to be as efficient as they are. And they're just making the right shots. They're making the right plays. They're not forcing anything. A lot of times you kind of get worried. Everyone was really hot on Lonnie Walker for the Lakers for a little bit. He did. He had some huge games, especially against the Warriors. But then you start getting a little worried because some of these guys, when they start falling, they watch a few go in, they start taking some shots that you wish they'd pass up. D'Angelo Russell, might sound like I'm picking on the Lakers a little bit here, but D'Angelo Russell, you know, that's always kind of been a bane of his. Even you watch him at the Timberwolves, same thing. When he gets going, you almost want him to cool off a little bit. He'll start taking some jump shots that, yes, they might have done their job to get the lead, but pretty soon he's chucking up shots that you don't want to see, and the lead slipping. LeBron and AD have gone a few possessions without touching the ball. It's just stuff you can't afford in the playoffs. Yeah, it might not lose you the game, but if you're trying to shut the door on teams, like, you can't do heat checks. Unless you're that guy, I don't want to see D'Angelo Russell doing heat checks, you know, unless he's 5 for 5. You know, if you're 5 for 10, you just saw the last two go in, so now you want to start hucking them. I don't want to see that. I want to see it go to the right players, and that's why you got to give credit to the Miami Heat. And like Eric and Lincoln says, credit to Spoelstra. I don't know what he says to those guys, how he gets them so mentally locked in, but they just take good shots. And what he's able to do on defense, you know, the Miami Heat ran the 2-3 more than any other team did during the regular season. So this isn't something new they've been throwing in at the playoffs to try to kind of throw the Celtics off guard. They've done the 2-3. They did it, you know, by a significant margin more than any other team in the NBA throughout the regular season. And a zone, especially in the NBA, you think it should never work, or it shouldn't work for prolonged amount of time. You would think the Boston Celtics would not take an entire series just to not even figure it out. A 2-3 zone. The Boston Celtics, that is their bane of the Miami Heat series. An NBA team that couldn't beat a 2-3 zone. You look at the 3-point numbers, that's got to come in a lot into play as well. The Miami Heat, they were really playing the top two guys up high, putting a lot of pressure, and they got some stronger guys, so it works a little better for them. If you can have Jimmy Butler kind of be on the top of that 2-3 and really harass guys, a great defensive player, you're going to take that. But still, the whole idea of a zone, at least in my opinion, is you're not, unless you're playing high school ball, you're not really looking at that as a real long-term method of winning the game. Unless you got some Syracuse recruiting where you're really just getting long guys that are built for that kind of defense. But they ran it, and I'll tell you why they ran it. So you look at that, this is just the series with the Miami Heat and the Celtics. And this is why this 2-3 works so well for them. So with that 2-3 defense that they're throwing at him over and over again, and why they could continue to throw that 2-3 at him. In the Heat Celtics series for the Celtics, Jason Tatum shot 23% from three. Brown shot 16% from three. Brown, I think he only had one game in that entire Heat series where he made more than 1 3. Just really, really bad stuff from Brown. I think Brown, doesn't get talked about enough on how disappointing he really was in that series. You just, with the ball handling and the shooting, just not a lot of good things coming from him. It's watching Brown be that poor of a ball handler and constantly losing the handle and turning it over. And you wonder how a guy like that's even good in the NBA sometimes. Then you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, wait, he is that good. But the turnovers are just killing him. And he's got to figure it out. Next season, he's really got to work on his ball handling. I don't know how many times he was going down the lane trying to open things up, and I see Butler, Adebayo, anyone, Martin, Strus, they're all just getting their hands in there. He just does not have a good handle on the ball. If I'm a Celtics fan, I'd be scared watching him anytime he really went down the lane to attack. He's just got a poor handle on it. But going down the list here, Horford, the guy that shot 45% from three during the regular season versus the Heat, only shot 28%. That right there tells you why the Miami Heat were able to run the 2-3 and just completely destroy the Boston Celtics offensively. The Celtics could not get in a rhythm to save their life. You would think with the 2-3, yeah, you're going to have a few possessions where it's weird, but ideally, if they're playing it out, to the 3-point line, if they're really closing out on shooters, that's going to open it up and inside, right? And then you're going to have lanes inside crashing down. Plus, if they're going to play it that far out to the 3-point line, rebounding is going to go in your favor, right? You're going to get all those rebounds. It's not going to work in the long term if you can board and take care of those possessions. Get offensive boards. If you're missing threes, it is what it is. And if they want to pack it inside, well, then you just got to make 3-point shots. And that was the problem. Anytime they penetrated it, they got the ball inside, the 2-3 would collapse, they'd kick it back out, and the Celtics just couldn't make anything. I just gave you the numbers. Out of their big three, what you consider their best 3-point shooters, none of them were in 30% range. They all just shot just horribly. Let's see here. The text line, Pork Chop with some breaking news says, did you see that Keisei Tamanaga is coming back? No, I did not check that out. I know there's going to be a decision. I thought it was going to be later today. I know he had a workout. For all as you are aware, Keisei Tamanaga, he is, the draft isn't out of the question for him. He has done some NBA workouts, but with that news, I'm going to go check that out. So we'll go ahead and throw it to break here. Shout out to Pork Chop for chiming in here. If that is true, I definitely want to go see it. Per 1011 News, as he says. Good point to leave a break here. We'll go to break. I'm going to check that out, get back to you guys. We'll see what Keisei Tamanaga decides, if he's going to come back and play for Nebraska, or if this news is true, or if he's still up in the air. We'll get back to you. I'm Harrison Arens, going solo here all the way up until 8 o'clock on Ticket Weeknights. I'll be back with you right after this break.
Attention all Wings fans. 89-cent wings are back on Tuesdays at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Lincoln. Enjoy the best wings in town for boneless or traditional at a price that makes the whole family happy. And now at the Williamsburg Village Wings and Rings, you can enjoy $1.50 tall boys in Bud Light, Coors Light, Busch Light, and Michelob Ultra every day after 7 p.m. and all day on Sundays. Get to Wings and Rings today and make sure to stop by on Tuesdays for 89-cent wings.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
The school year is almost over and summer road trips are on the horizon. Stop telling yourself you'll upgrade your car someday and do it now. Mullen Motors lot is full of great vehicles to take home so you don't have to worry about your current car barely surviving another road trip. Come check out their lot just north of 48th and Layton and find your next ride. Summer road trips are just around the corner. Mullen Motors.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful. I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman. Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back. Sure.
Solder Heyman Jewels, Lincoln and Grand Island. SolderHeyman.com.
Old School with DP and J.
Remember, we still got to factor in the offensive line, the receivers
I'm
we
not
don't know about.
I'm looking at individual here. Chuba has not done anything to date here.
He's been a starter here.
Oh, and
he's been a starter.
Okay,
here.
and
That's one more.
Two coaches got fired.
He didn't get him fired. Look, Chuba ain't the reason why.
I'm not saying he get fired, but he didn't do anything. He didn't stop me from bringing in Jeff Sims.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. I am Harrison Arens, going solo all the way up until 8 o'clock, and I come to this break with good news. 25 minutes ago, Keisei Tamanaga of Nebraska basketball puts out a screenshot of a nice little graphic picture of Keisei Tamanaga waving to the Nebraska crowd saying, "I am back." So we got Keisei Tamanaga back on Nebraska basketball next season. I can't say that enough. That's huge. That is big for Nebraska basketball. That gives us a shot to really kind of go into next season having an identity on who we got. I'm excited for that. You throw Keisei Tamanaga knowing you're going to have him back. I mean, that's just going to change your lineup. That's really going to save you from having to dive deeper on all these guards. Without Keisei Tamanaga, you know, you're really getting worried there. On who is going to kind of be our three-point shooters, who's going to kind of be our playmakers on offense. So you have him back. This is going to be his last year. Obviously, even after this year, if he had more eligibility left, I don't know how many of you would expect to have it, but this would be considered his last season. He's going to use that COVID year. So 23-24 season, this is absolutely it for him here at Nebraska. But man, that is awesome to have him back. That just puts you in a way better spot. Now that you can go in with that momentum, and if you're being real here, you might look at Keisei Tamanaga as a superstar of the Big Ten. The amount of media attention he was picking up towards the end of the season, us coming into the Big Ten tournament, again, you really hope next year works out for him. If he's going to come back in another year, I'm glad that, you know, we're making these strides in basketball. We're kind of turning things up a little bit, but we got to keep it going. You know, Fred Hoiberg wants to keep that hot seat cooled off. Now you got Keisei Tamanaga back. Again, I really do think this guy, he is NBA caliber. What impresses me the most about Keisei Tamanaga is he worked on his game a lot coming into this season. You know, for the longest time, I just knew him as this three-point shooter. He was supposed to be, you know, the classic, similarity to Steph Curry is what everyone was calling him. The way he can just shoot the ball from anywhere on the court and just the quick release on it at the same time. You know, if you want to get out and close on him, you're going to have to close out at an alarming rate. And a lot of times, as a result of that quick release, he finds himself at the foul line a lot, shooting threes as well. He's just a really gifted player. And again, what impressed me the most, that's what I always thought of him as, this spot up three-point shooter. But that's just not his game anymore. He can do that, but it's what he can do off that. He can finish with his left hand. He can finish with his right hand. He's got, just a series of moves at the rim that a guy of his size, it makes sense, right? If you're going to be that height, you're going to have to get crafty around the rim. You know, you're going to have to be two steps ahead of whatever tree, especially since you're in the Big Ten. There's going to be a tree down there. If you really want to get, the ball up and over him or around him in the Big Ten at your size, you're going to have to be crafty. You're going to have to be 2 steps ahead. And I truly believe when I watch him play, he looks like a guy that is always just playing 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Whether that's passing, how many times do we see Keisei Tamanaga and Derek Walker on backdoor cuts? Inbound, Walker at the high post. Keisei Tamanaga knows he's a threat from deep, kind of just drifts out to the 3-point line, waits, looks, sees the head turn from the defender, backdoor cut. And again, defense collapses on him. They see he's cutting baseline. And you would think, even though he's got a step on him, the size advantage just isn't going to be enough for him to get that up. You think he's going to have to kick it out another time for another open jumper. But no, he's got enough ways to finish. Like I said, he really went into the offseason. What it looks like to me, he worked on his ball handling. He worked on shooting off the dribble. He worked on his right hand finishing, left hand finishing. I couldn't poke very many holes in his game other than the defense, which even there, I saw improvement. I didn't see this massive liability out there that, man, if we're out there, and if he's not scoring, we're bleeding points. Never felt that way. He really stepped up his defense this year. And again, especially with the size we had, it was nice, having Griesel in there, even Sam Hoiberg off the bench. We had some guards that could really play strong defense. So you wouldn't have to put Keisei Tamanaga on necessarily their best offensive player. You could kind of hide him a little bit. And when you did, he held his own. He did a good job not getting too distracted out there and staying close to assignment. But no, that's huge. Again, Keisei Tamanaga, he is coming back to Nebraska, and that just puts you in a really good spot, right? You look kind of down the road here with Keisei Tamanaga. While we're on Nebraska basketball, we'll kind of look ahead here. We still got, for Ramel Lloyd Jr., he's on the Nebraska roster as well. We'll see what that looks like down the road for him. Jamarcus Lawrence, just another guy that we saw a lot of good things out of. And we got some of these walk-ons too that I'm curious about. Jeff Grace III. We saw Sam Hoiberg. Those guys have a show at the Ticket, and it's just the strides the bench is making. And I think if you're going to challenge anyone in the Big Ten, especially being Nebraska, we're a school that doesn't have really hardly any history at all when it comes to basketball. Fred Hoiberg wants to, I think, continue to ramp up this roster. It's going to be keeping guys, like Keisei Tamanaga. So just did an awesome job there. Obviously, there must be a good, relationship of trust between Tamanaga and Hoiberg for him to come back and not, risk it going to the NBA. He feels safer coming here and trying to prove it for another year. But again, we got some guys on here that you got to be a little excited about. Blaze Keita is another one. Really excited about, what he's going to do. He's go all the way up until 24-25 season. Just another guy that just plays really big. He's a guy that adds that size to Nebraska. Does a really good job, too, of staying out of foul trouble. He was a little rough early on, but as he's matured, seeing a lot of good things about him as well. But again, if you guys want to join the show, as I announced, we do have Keisei Tamanaga coming back to Nebraska for another final season before he tries his chances in the NBA or even overseas. But I imagine with his skill caliber, as long as anything goes remotely close as it did to last year for him, he should have a fair shot in the NBA. But again, Starter Heyman text line, that's 402-464-5685. Again, you can join me on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as Allo Channel 951. Great way to put a face to the voice and join the show that way. But while we're on it, we'll stick to basketball here. I do want to kind of go back to the NBA Finals because where I left off before was the Miami Heat completely shut off the Boston Celtics with 2-3 defense. It's kind of funny to think about in the NBA, but I mean that's really what happened. They played a 2-3, and the Celtics, for the life of them, just couldn't get comfortable. They through 7 games, they never found a way to break that 2-3 zone to the point where they could score at a consistent clip. And you saw it in the last game, especially lots of turnovers. They get blown out. Not even really a close game in the fourth quarter, and it just got sloppy there at the end. So again, Boston Celtics, we'll see what they look like next year. They really might just kind of throw Brown out there and see what the offers are, because it's obvious you're going to have to do something. There's something missing there with the Boston Celtics. I can't even really tell you what it is, It sounds cheesy to call things like toughness, effort, because it's not like I don't think the guys are out there trying to miss every single 3-point shot. But damn, it was bad. That was just a horrible few stretch of games there for the Boston Celtics. Despite kind of coming back from 0-3, they really struggled. And then Augie from the text line referring to we're getting Casey Tominaga back, as I announced. He says that's huge because we need him as a shooter and the leadership he will bring. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I didn't touch on that. The leadership was there. He got the crowd fired up. He knew, it felt like he definitely was aware that he is the crowd's favorite player, and he can turn that place around with a couple jumpers. It's just something Casey Tominaga has done. He's by far, you know, in my memory, he's been one of my favorite players to watch. I liked watching Bryce McGowan's. Don't get me wrong. Teron Petaway, another guy that I really enjoyed watching when I was younger, but I've never had someone like Casey Tominaga where I've seen, you know, PBA really just roar after he makes one shot from 3. It's like the crowd can feel it. And when you see one go in for him, the other guys, it's kind of like that Steph Curry effect. It really is. It's, you see him start making shots, it becomes contagious. And pretty soon, everyone on the team starts knocking down threes. The crowd's into it. Just truly a guy that can turn it around for you. And we've seen it before. If we're down by 20 points, you can really look at Casey Tominaga as like, that might be the guy that can get us back in those games. Now, you're not expecting him to do that. That'd be too much to ask of any player. But to have a lethal shooter like that can truly go unconscious. I mean, we're talking truly unconscious from 3-point range. It's that quick release, doesn't need a lot of time to get it off. And again, like I said, definitely gotten better off the dribble. I mean, he can pull up and shoot that thing in a blink of an eye. If you want to go under on screens, he'll say, thank you very much. That just makes it so hard on teams. Now, anytime you got to pick and roll, you know, with the center and you got Casey Tominaga, you're going to have to go over that center every single time. Now, if you go over, that center's got a way more open lane to dive down into the paint. It just causes a lot of problems. When you got to fight and claw over every single screen on a guy, not only is it more tiring on defense, opens things up for, you know, that center. You might even draw some fouls as they're trying to fight through that screen. It all just works out if you have that level of shooting. So again, Augie, agree with you 100%. Not only the shooting, but I like that the leadership as well. I didn't mention that before, but you can't deny what Casey Tominaga has meant for this Nebraska roster as he's just continued to blossom. With that being said, though, again, if you guys want to keep talking Nebraska hoops, feel free to chime in 402-464-5685. But where I was going with this Miami Heat 2-3 zone is this is where I'd be a little more worried if I was the Miami Heat. I'd really like to see what a 2-3 zone looks like against Jokic. To me, it sounds horrible. It sounds like a route you wouldn't want to go. It sounds like you're doing Nuggets a favor. You can't, we already look at Jokic as one of the best passing bigs we've seen throughout NBA history. Even just get rid of NBA bigs, one of the best NBA passers in history. I mean, he's truly up there. That's one of the things that's irked me the most about these playoffs is I felt like we got here to the playoffs and everyone's like, oh, wow, this Jokic guy, he's pretty good. Where'd he come from? And it's like, have you watched the regular season at all? This guy has been doing it not only all season, he's been doing it for years. And yeah, they've come up short in the playoffs a few times, but you watch those games, you can see why. Jokic, he wasn't as good on defense. He really struggled on the perimeter. The pieces around him weren't quite set yet. The addition of Bruce Brown and Caldwell Pope, Aaron Gordon, I think that really took those guys to a new level. They're guys that can play off Jokic than before. Before it was a lot easier, you know, to pick on Jokic, especially defensively. He's fixed that. He's still not, you know, absolutely elite, but he's definitely fixed up enough of his weaknesses to where you can't just pick on him for an entire series like years past. So I like what they can offer defensively. The Miami Heat, I do really wonder how they size up against the Nuggets. That 2-3, I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't try it. They might not even really try it. That's how bad of an idea it sounds to me personally. I just wouldn't want to give a guy like Jokic, put him in the middle with all that space. He can finish with either hand. So if you're not on him right away, yeah, I mean, you'd almost have to run as funny as it is, you would never see it in the NBA, but it almost has to be like a box and one. There's no way you could just leave him alone out there and expect him not to hurt you with his passing or just easy floaters down the lane. It's something that I would be surprised if they even tried. I mean, I think that's how good Jokic is. I think that's what this series is going to show us all. Again, I want to give credit to Miami. I'll go through it again. They are a team with a negative point differential. They only AC to make it to the finals since 1999. And the team that did make it to those finals was the Knicks, who had a good roster. They actually were way up there on cap space. They're paying their players really well. Tells you they're actually putting the money into the season expecting to win. It was a shortened season as well, and they were only 6 games away from the 1 seed. So, yeah, they were the A seed, but you can see the far disparity between these two rosters coming into the playoffs. Again, Miami Heat, they were 30th in offense. They were 28th on 3-point percentage. None of that's really shown its head at all throughout these playoffs. And again, you just kind of have to give credit to Jimmy Butler, Spoelstra. But with that being said, congratulations to the Heat. I think it's a good run. But I'm still going Nuggets in 6. So with that being said, we'll throw it to our final break here. I'm Harrison Arens on Ticket Weeknights, going solo all the way up until 8 o'clock. You guys have been great so far. If you want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. I'll be back right after this break.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Hey, it's Nicklin Hames from Nebraska Volleyball. I hate wasting time in practice, and I want to help you stop wasting your time when you're looking for an electrician. High Electric has been serving the area for over 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
Building, or when I'm dining outdoors, there's no place for secondhand smoke or e-cigarette aerosol. Breathe easier knowing the facts. Visit smokefree.ne.gov. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous. 5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC, sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Integrated Life Choices has been inspiring opportunities for individuals with disabilities for more than 15 years in Lincoln and across Nebraska by offering a number of services. From group homes to independent living resources and job training, you'll find the support that allows people to live fulfilling lives. They're also hiring. If you're looking for a rewarding career supporting people with developmental disabilities, you can check out open positions along with learning more about services at ilc.net. Integrated Life Choices.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
Neither you or I think he's retiring. The NBA, I don't think, is ready for LeBron to retire. Who's the face of the league?
They're not prepared for it. Like it would be shock in New York, because now you're trying to recreate this again, but there's really, they're trying to do it. Like that's why they were hoping Celtics, Lakers. Like they're trying to figure out, find a way to revamp it.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
this is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. I am Harrison Arens, going solo all the way up until 8 o'clock. We got about 10 minutes left or so. So again, if you guys want to join the show, feel free to hit up the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685, as well as you can catch us streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and Allo, channel 951 to all of our Allo cable subscribers as well. So again, plenty of ways to join the show. And I think on this last segment here, since we got a little bit of time, haven't had any chance to talk about the upcoming Nebraska football schedule yet. It's been going off today, obviously, with the announcements of some times here. We did get big noon kickoff for Colorado. That one's big, so we're really going to get put on the spotlight right there. It's going to be interesting between Deion Sanders, Matt Rule, two teams trying to build that identity in two very wildly different fashions. So again, we'll talk about that. But a real quick recap. First segment, I talked about the Miami Heat and why this run is so special, why it's so unprecedented, and why even after the finals, say the Heat win, we should never use this as a reference for anything ahead. I'm truly saying, look at how special it is. Just if you're bored, look up how special is this Miami Heat run, and you will get loads of information that says this has never happened, nor does this make sense that it should ever happen, and it will never happen again. I mean, that's how crazy the numbers are. But again, congratulations to the Heat. I still say Nuggets in 6. But again, it's crazy run. And then on the second segment, we dove into Nebraska basketball. If you haven't looked at social media at all and you're curious if Casey Tominaga is coming back, probably just takes one screen on Twitter to pull up. I just went on there again. Casey Tominaga announced probably about an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, he is coming back to Nebraska for his final year of eligibility. So we got our 3-point sniper coming back to Lincoln. Just absolutely huge. I was at a point where I was really curious. You know, I mean, think about it. If he goes to those NBA workouts and they're all talking to him like they really like his game and they think that, yeah, man, if you want to come here now, we got a spot for you. And to turn around and not do that, it's, you know, kudos to him. It tells you the trust he has in Fred Hoiberg. Or who knows, maybe the workouts didn't go as well that he wanted to, and they told him, get another year under the belt, get a little stronger, and we'll go from there. But nope, again, he's spending his final year of eligibility here at Nebraska. And the superstar of the Big Ten, as I'd like to call him, he definitely took the most attention, I think, from anyone else out of the Big Ten other than Edey. He's just been that kind of player for Nebraska. But again, we're switching up here. Like I said, we got a little bit of time left, maybe about 5 minutes or so. We're going to dive into the upcoming 23 Nebraska football schedule. And the reason why this one has been catching the eye of so many people is the way it starts out. It starts off with 2 road games, week 0, Thursday night game, 7 p.m., and then a big noon kickoff game versus Colorado, also on the road. So you're going to run into Minnesota, to a team that They have their culture. You know what they're going to do. It's going to be 3 clouds of dust and just tight end, short little passes into the flats. But for the most part, they're going to try to punch you in the mouth early, later, in the middle of the game as often as they can. That's really what you can expect out of Minnesota. They're going to be physical. Their entire offensive line might be out with COVID. Guess what? That's happened before, and Nebraska got punched in the mouth regardless. I don't know. That, to me, is still one of the worst losses Nebraska's had in recent memory. That COVID year when they couldn't have fans in the stands, their entire offensive line was missing. Nebraska comes in there, early game, little groggy, think we got this one in the bag. I mean, who do they got left on the line? Bunch of dudes that are third stringers, fourth stringers, never played before, and we take an L. We get punched in the mouth. It didn't matter who they had out there on the field. It was just the physicality. It was Nebraska coming in sleepwalking, and we never adjusted. It's pretty hard. You watch UFC fighters, if they get punched in the face early in the first round, odds are not good. They're typically a little slower for the rest of the match. Takes a while to get into it mentally. The other person's already there. And they take a lot of L's. That's kind of what I felt like happened during that COVID year where Nebraska came up to Minnesota, and despite them missing so many people from their offensive line, their entire starting offensive line from COVID, they punched us in the mouth early, and we never got out of that mentality. And it was just really tough. PJ Fleck, he's had Nebraska's number. He really has. He has just been owning us. He's beating us in the style that we used to pride ourselves so much on in the past. It's a thing that if you're Nebraska, you got to stop these little runs that these teams are getting off of. Illinois is about to hop on that too, about being another team that just comes in there and punches you in the mouth, takes a win, and goes home. How many more Big Ten teams do you want to hop in this circle of coming in here, beating Nebraska at home or on the road on wins that we like to keep calling chalk wins, or at least games we should win? A lot of the games we quote unquote should win just have not been the case. So again, this is why the opening to the season is important to a lot of people's eyes. DP talked earlier. He had a little bit of different take on it. And again, if you guys want to give your take on the schedule, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. But he said, essentially, I don't give a damn about the schedule. Nebraska has constantly not looked at itself enough. It's how many times have we looked in the past on the schedule, looking at the schedule, trying to base wins off the schedule, and Nebraska comes in and they're just not ready, so it doesn't even matter. Georgia Southern, they were on the schedule. Should be an easy win, right? Not if you're doing your job. Not if during the offseason your offensive line doesn't know where their hand should be. Your DBs against Northwestern don't know where they're supposed to be. You get broken up plays, people open up top, and easy touchdown. Don't know where you're supposed to be. You got defensive linemen missing assignments, overplaying, quarterbacks running up 30-yard field. You got penalties all over the place, special teams errors. You're punting the ball to the left or right side when you should be going right or left. All these things add up. These stupid mental errors that a D1 football program, not that they're ever going to go away, but they should be mitigated, especially at the Power 5 level. So again, I look at the schedule as a fan. I think it's interesting. As a supporter of Nebraska, I kind of lean on the camp of the same way DP was thinking about it. I don't even look at it as wins and losses anymore. Nebraska's just got to figure out who they are before you start looking at the schedule and counting wins and losses, because that's gotten me, and I'm sure a lot of other Nebraska fans, in trouble in the past, is looking at the schedule and picking wins and losses. Turns out to be pretty disappointing most of the time, especially under the Scott Frost era. They got to figure out whatever the hell they were doing for the past 4 years. And don't get me wrong, I trust Rule. As of now, I have no reason not to trust him. Now, I'm not saying he's the savior of Nebraska football. Also got to learn off of that one. It's a big title to give anyone without seeing anything on the field first. But again, I like it in the sense that we got a team in Minnesota. We know what they are. We know what they're going to do. Then you followed up with big noon kickoff against Colorado. Colorado, we're still not going to have any tape on them. I believe they don't have a week 0 game. We do. So Colorado is going to get the edge on that. They're going to have tape on us. We won't have any idea what Colorado wants to throw at us. And they're going to be at home. That's going to put Matt Rule in a tough spot early. And Colorado, say what you will about Deion Sanders, whether you like his style or not, he's got 4 or 5-star athletes that are ready to play and that really do believe in his kind of style and coaching. It's not like all the players that we're hearing about, are upset. It's not like the locker room's a disaster. A lot of the guys that were upset are the guys that are leaving. Now, you can say, yeah, they should be upset. I'm not here to argue that. But I'm just saying there's a group of guys under Deion Sanders, some real athletes. They're ready to play under him. And I would not be surprised if Colorado even beats the over this year. I think you only have to bet 6 wins for the over, which, looking at last year, you can see how they get that number. But again, you're going against Minnesota, week 0 on a Thursday night. They're going to look to punch you in the face. And then you got Colorado in Colorado, big noon kickoff, and they're going to have the film on you. You're not going to have the film on them. It sets up pretty interesting first 2 games for Matt Rule. He's definitely going to, have his T's crossed, his I's dotted. He's not going to necessarily have the advantage against Colorado. Minnesota, that one's on the road as well. It's a Thursday night game. A little weird to kind of start on that. The week 0 games have always seemed to be pretty tough for Nebraska. You can remember a lot of them, Illinois in particular, just really haven't had a good run with them lately. With that being said, though, I'm going to get out of here. Again, appreciate you guys listening. I'm Harrison Arens, was going solo all the way up until 8 o'clock. Again, if you missed any of the day shows, feel free to go to theticketfm.com or our YouTube page. Just search up 93.7 The Ticket. You can go past all our live streams if you like watching the actual video streams. But nonetheless, appreciate you guys listening. Listen to me go ahead and rant for a full hour here. But enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.